Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. Still another delay for the reopening of the oil refinery in Trinidad and Tobago. This story takes the lead in today's edition of Caribbean Perspective for Tuesday, 13th December 2022. Details when we return.
Win prizes weekly with the Dutch Lady Christmas promotion. You can win hampers, kitchen appliances, and much more. Here's how to win. Visit our Facebook and Instagram pages weekly to retrieve the recipe. Follow the recipe. Submit the final dish via email at dlchristmaspromotion@gmail.com along with proof of purchase of Dutch Lady UHT or 410 evaporated milk. Recipes will be judged based on the display. Winners will be selected each week to battle for the grand prize in a live cooking show hosted by the creative chef. Look out for the Dutch Lady Santa Claus at supermarkets island-wide. The promotion runs from November 16th to December 21st, 2022. And once again, we'd like to congratulate the winner of last year's Dutch Lady Christmas promotion, Miss Brianna Bihari. Dutch Lady Milk, proudly distributed by Hubbard's Agency.
Welcome back. The refinery in Trinidad and Tobago still has no new owner and is no longer set to reopen on December 5th, a fact confirmed by Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley of Trinidad and Tobago. More in this report.
On December 5th, Trinidad Petroleum Holdings Limited ceased discussions for the sale of the Pointe-a-Pierre refinery with Quanten LLC, following advice from its professional international advisors. This was confirmed by Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley in the Lower House on Friday, following questions from the opposition.
As we stand now, based on your response, there are no parties that TPHTL will be working with for the refinery to be open at this point in time.
As of the 5th of December, that is correct, because the process did not deliver a usable, workable arrangement, and that was properly terminated.
Dr. Rowley said TPHL will continue to assess any application on the sale of the refinery, adding that other entities have also expressed interest.
And that assessment is done in whatever way, whether it is going back out or whether it is receiving a proposal, but the door is still open for interested parties to talk to TPHL, or we may very well go back out again, but going back out does not guarantee that we'll find someone.
The Prime Minister reiterated that there is no set date for the refinery to be opened and cautioned the opposition on misleading the population. Dr. Rowley also rejected suggestions that the refinery be opened by government.
So this approach trying to give the impression that the refinery is to be reopened within the budgetary period and this date and that date is purely misleading. In Trinidad and Tobago, the owner of the refinery has come out of the refining business. And if we are lucky to find someone who is interested and have oil to refine, then we all would be happy.
The refinery, which was closed in 2018, has a processing capacity of approximately 140,000 barrels of crude oil per day. Sonolala, TTT News.
Will you be naughty or nice this Christmas? The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service says when entering the city of Port of Spain, you better be nice. Their Christmas anti-crime plan, DARE, was launched at the Brian Lara Promenade recently. Caricia Douglas of TTT News reports.
I dare you to be naughty.
Port of Spain Mayor Joel Martinez at the launch of Operation DARE, the Police Service Public Safety Christmas Plan. Senior Superintendent in the Port of Spain Division, Roger Alexander, puts his statement into perspective.
I see it as Santa's reindeer, just that it is in blue. It's a police. And it is going through the city to see all who've been naughty and all who've been nice. And at that time, we'll separate those who are naughty from those who are nice.
Assistant Commissioner of Police Collis Hazel says the acronym DARE represents what they want to achieve: deter and disrupt, enforcement, education, and response. He says the amalgamation of security elements in the fight against crime is unprecedented, and the plan is to take a multicultural approach.
And we carefully analyze them one by one and have strategically placed them in our objectives in order to rid rid Port of Spain and its environs of all crime and criminal activities.
And as the Christmas season segues into Carnival, Mayor Martinez is calling on city stakeholders to be ambassadors of the city.
All those registered vendors, please take note that if you want to remain as a vendor or a businessman who wants to remain as a business in the city of Port of Spain, you have a responsibility to the city. Just like how you believe that the police have a responsibility to ensure your safety.
Carissa Douglas for TTT News.
A legal challenge has been launched against the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service for denying activist Victor Roberts the opportunity to march on World Human Rights Day. Urvashi Tarari Rupnarayan of TV6 News reports.
Social activist Victor Roberts was on Friday barred from having a march. Roberts says he applied for permission from the police commissioner 8 days before his intended demonstration.
What we have experienced, ladies and gentlemen, is that the process by the police continue to stall the process on a daily basis. Want me to bring this, want me to bring that. And as soon as I carry a piece of document that they request, they will then come back the night after and say, Mr. Roberts, we want to have the original.
Roberts says he will be exploring his legal option to challenge the TTPS. Attorney Kyle Taklal Singh says the process has already begun.
By next week, we will be filing a claim in court. We'll be filing a claim to challenge the decision to deny him the permit. We will be suing the police office holders, the commissioner of police, and individual police officers. All of those police officers who got themselves into this web of deception, all of those police officers who machinated and deceived and connived to deny Victor Roberts his constitutional rights, you will not be spared.
The attorney says the law, which is intended to give police notice so they can allocate manpower to oversee protests, is being misused to stifle the rights of citizens.
We will also be approaching and suing the Attorney General of this country, will be suing the state because we want to strike down that law. We are of the respectful view that any law which requires permission from the person you want to protest against, because that is what Mr. Roberts was doing.
He says that cannot be right, democratic, or constitutional, and the law must either be struck down or modified. Urvashi Tamari Rupnarayan, TV6 News.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
Jamaica's health minister says the Cornwall Regional Hospital in Montego Bay is on track with its rehabilitation work, even though the project is lacking in some skilled labour. Minister Christopher Tufton is optimistic that they will complete the project on time. More in this news item.
Rehabilitation work at the Cornwall Regional Hospital in St. James started over 3 years ago, and the project has seen several delays over the period. But Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says he's satisfied with the level of work being done so far.
The 2B phase is going very well. A lot of work is going on in terms of reinforcing the structure, in terms of putting in steel reinforcement, concrete reinforcement, the roof. And that was what this phase was intended to do. We are finalizing discussions around the final phase, which is where you now go in and put in the partitions and the windows and the doors and all of that. And we're hoping that sometime next year that will start, hopefully sooner rather than later.
But Dr. Tufton says there's a challenge. He says the project does not have all the manpower it needs for certain skilled areas.
We had some issues with skilled labor. And in fact, we placed an ad on the social media pages around, carpenters and masons, because we need a local labor content outside of the Chinese workers who are given permission to come in. It is a difficulty. The reality is that the work that is taking place nationally, whether in construction of one form or another, there is a shortage of certain skilled labor.
He says this will affect the time in which the project will be completed. However, Dr. Tufton remains optimistic that the project will be completed on time. He is hoping that if the full building is not occupied, at least parts of it will be occupied during the latter part of 2023.
We have learned a lot of lessons, but guess what? Those lessons are going to mean a lot to us because there's so much other build-out that is taking place now. Spanish Town, Maypen to come, St. Anne's Bay, and others. That Cornwall has been a sort of case study in how to deal with a public health facility in the context of not doing this for 25 or 30 years. So I'm encouraged that Cornwall will be a great lesson for us, but it also will be an amazing institution when it's finished, or infrastructure when it's completed.
Meanwhile, Dr. Tufton says his ministry will continue its public education campaign on HIV awareness. Speaking in Montego Bay, St. James recently, Dr. Tufton says there are still some vulnerable groups that are of concern.
Street people, for example, is a vulnerable group. One of the emerging trends is married men who have sex with men. That's also a group that is particularly vulnerable. HIV is no longer a gay disease. It cuts across mainstream and all stream. And what we have to do is to provide the necessary public education to all concerned and to ensure that where persons are in doubt, they protect themselves.
The St. James Health Department, meantime, is reporting a decline in the Aedes aegypti mosquitoes in the parish.
Acting Chief Health Inspector Shanika Lewis says over 13,800 premises were inspected and over 2,000 were found to be positive for mosquito breeding.
Thus, the Aedes index is 16%, and it is down from about 6% compared to the month of October.
However, she noted that there were challenges in carrying out fogging operations in the parish due to persistent rainfall last month. In the meantime, with the Christmas season approaching, Ms. Lewis says the health department will be stepping up its inspection on meat sellers in the parish.
So we're just encouraging persons that with the Yuletide season, that persons will be attempting to distribute for sale uninspected meat. So we're going to be ensuring that we're doing our enforcement actions to ensure that these meat that would be deemed unfit for human consumption are not continued in the food trade.
She was addressing the recent sitting of the St. James Municipal Corporation.
The Food Fair Shop and Win promotion is back, better than ever. We are giving away $30,000 in prizes with the promotional activities you know and love, like find the misplaced items, spin the wheel, and other exciting in-store activities. You can win hams, turkeys, vouchers, cooking gas from Sol, and lunch packages from the Creative Chef. The promotion runs from November 16th to December 23rd, 2022. Food Fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.